Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring the good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that the captives will be released and the prisoners will be freed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and the devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is one of the most special interviews I have ever done. Today, I get to interview Kim Clement's daughter, Danae. Now, those of you who don't know who Kim Clement is, he is one of the most profound prophets that's been around for many years. Before I ever started doing what I'm doing, I knew the word Kim Clement. I've been, studying patterns and gold and precious metals for years. And Kim Clement, has been on my radar forever just because of the fact that, he spoke directly of gold. And when he speaks, it was basically God speaking through him in reference to what God's plans were for his money, gold, and silver. So today, after all these years, I finally get to meet Danae, the daughter of Kim Clement. Danae, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for having me on today, Bo. For everybody watching, Bo and I met earlier this year at the Reawaken America tour, which we're both touring with Clay Clark and General Flynn, and we became friends. And even my mother is just so impressed with your timeline and all the things that you're doing, even when she was there in Myrtle Beach. So it's just been lovely to get to know you, and I'm glad to finally be on the show and get to talk to everybody.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it was actually very fun in Myrtle Beach. When you were on stage, your mother was literally right beside me, and it was so exciting to have her, there and listening to you speak. And then she even went on stage for a few minutes. And it just, what a blessing, it's truly amazing how God has been working behind the scenes for so long. And now he's putting all these pieces together. What is revelation, right? It's an art piece, and everybody gets pieces, and then you put the pieces together, and guess what starts to happen? You start to see a picture. And so we're getting
exactly what my dad used to say.
Oh, really?
My dad used to say the same thing. People used to follow Dad's prophecies when he was alive still. And if something happened or came to pass, there was a group of people who used to email in, and he called them code breakers. And we used to say is, we've got to figure out this code and put the pieces all together, because it's all woven like a tapestry, is how you put it. And there's something for all of us to see once we can weave all this together, because there was sort of a code in the way he prophesied, and he didn't know what it was. He wasn't the one that used to figure things out. Oftentimes he would forget what he'd even prophesied or what he'd said, because it wasn't a calculated thing in his mind that he'd come up with and then said. It would just come out of his mouth.
Right. I want to explain that. So that's when prophets speak, there's several ways that I've seen how this happens and how it works. So some prophets, they have the gift of writing. They don't know what they're writing. They're just writing and writing and writing. They don't know, their hands moving, they're writing and what it is until they read it afterwards. Other ones speak like your father, and they don't know what's coming out. God's using you as a vessel. And then you have to go watch the video or the audio afterwards to know what was said. So that's kind of how, and there's, I'm sure, other ways of doing it, but I get I'm not a prophet, but I do get visual pictures sometimes. So God showed me like how the stock market works, for example, and how the patterns of a 4-2-1 pattern, and you got to take it and roll it into a circle. He showed me you got to roll it, and then it repeats itself. So I get visual things, but it's really cool, when you take these pieces and you put them together. And so when you were on stage, and in Myrtle Beach, you things you were saying, you may not have understood or what your father was saying, but to me it made complete sense. right? And so that's why when I started listening to your father years ago, I knew that he was the real deal because I knew what he was saying was the truth. And when you hear the truth, you know it, right? And so what I've come to discover, and this is really interesting about what your father was saying, how we prophets, because today we're going to talk about a lot of things, but particularly about, the seasons that we're in and the season we're in, particularly this year, 2022. So the topic of this year is going to be focused heavily on this year, 2022, how your father prophesied. We have a couple prophecies that I took and I narrowed like longer prophecies down to about 3 or 4 minutes, which we'll listen to as well today and get your input on it. And we'll put it all together, but we're going to talk about this year. We're going to talk about the finances, about the wealth transfer. We do all these pieces we're going to try to put together today, because what we want to do is we want to start seeing a picture come to life.
Exactly. And that's exactly what the code breaking is. And so, I just say this about prophets. I know about my dad. But one thing I've realized is that prophets, their expression is as unique as they are.
Right.
How God works. He's not a God who is repetitive and because he is the creator. So if you look at, for instance, everything going on in the world right now, all the negatives, like especially if you've seen our media's overtaken, Hollywood, the music, if you listen to the music, you watch the movies, you watch this, it's all repetitive and boring. I mean, I find myself oftentimes getting upset with the devil or whatever and just saying, you're so boring. You just can't come up with anything new. You're just boring. Yeah. And so whenever you feel that, then you know, my dad used to say, without revelation, the people perish or go backwards. He gets that from the Bible, obviously, but he put it in that way because that's what the prophet is doing. Yeah. It's facilitating the people to move forward. And so oftentimes when you feel that there's a stagnation, which we see around us right now, definitely, you'll see that God will send prophets to prophesy. And it helps to open the eyes of people, especially prophetic people, because there's all different levels to this too. You can have office of prophet, which would be like my dad. And then you have prophetic people, which would be like people who have dreams and visions, like you. You're a prophetic person. You may not be the office of a prophet called to go prophesy things, but God may ask you to prophesy sometimes. Pastors prophesy, apostles prophesy. The gifts of the Spirit and the offices, they can interchange. So I've seen many pastors, God gives them a prophetic word. So it's a very necessary part of the church, especially today.
Well, and within the Bible too, right? Here's like, I kind of come to this revelation, like, there's a prophet prophetically, or it states, God does nothing before first speaking through his servants, the prophets. Okay. But now look at it backwards. Do that backwards, right? God can't do anything until he first speaks through his servants, the prophets.
Exactly.
So there's so many prophets, a lot of people that are prophetic right now getting a lot of revelation and they're speaking, God's words. But why is he doing that? Because he's about to do something right now. And he said that he can't do it until he first speaks. Wow. Get it? So there's so many things he's going to do. That's why this is so exciting, because yes, God does nothing before first speaking through his servants, but if he's going to do it, he's got to speak. And there's so many things that are about to happen. So we're getting a lot of information right now. And so that's why you get a lot of hope. There's nothing but excitement, because honestly, this is exciting for me. There's no downside to this. I know when I speak with you, Danae, when we're at the conferences, it's good times. Okay. We're like laughing, high-fiving one another. It's joyous. Why? Because we know how this is going to play out. We don't know all the parts of the plan, but we have enough to know how great this is going to be,
And that's what God needs us to have. He needs us to have that glimpse of the future, so that in darkness, there's a light, there's a spotlight on, okay, this is the direction we know we need to take. And especially in hindsight, sometimes it helps you when you look at prophecy, especially New Testament prophets and prophets of today. If you look in hindsight, or if you look in the moment, it can help you with direction, like which is the right thing. What is true? I'm feeling so confused. I don't know what's true. The prophets are there to help with that direction.
Well, could you imagine how if there were no prophets right now, if your father didn't speak, if there were no prophets, like, let me tell you, there'd be nothing but no hope in this world right now.
I would be completely hopeless. And I just feel so.
So I feel horrible. Sorry. I feel so horrible for the people that are in this world right now and do nothing but watch mainstream media. Go ahead.
Those are the people we need to be praying for, actually. And you know what? That's what makes this so difficult, is that we really have to be Christians. And so that means forgiving these people, and offering them the redemption that Christ offers that is not in the world. There's no redemption. You'll notice how things go. You get canceled.
Yeah.
They just want to pretend you don't exist, that your voice doesn't matter. And so what you were saying about God needs to speak through the prophets. And what do you see happening? The counter to that is the enemy silencing, especially Christians right now. We're getting silenced. We're getting squashed and canceled. And our voice is being, because the enemy knows that through us, God will speak through us and will just set all of it straight. It's like a light in darkness.
Right. But why? So why is this happening? It's really obvious, right? Because you see, we, the ones that are speaking our truth, right? Or your father. So all these things that are spoken, we're using their platforms.
Yes.
So that
I make sure I do.
Right. And that's why. So like, we've got, I've talked before about 7 hills, and one of them is that they control the media, right? And so they control the media, that is, they're pushing out their voice through any and all channels possible. And, we're trying to maneuver using their network, their platforms.
We need to be in the dark places. We have to be the light in the dark.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's really an essence of how I believe, where we are in this world right now. And it's all about what is light. It's the truth.
Truth. Exactly.
It's like they're hand in hand. Light is truth. And so what does light do to darkness? It exposes the evil things. So it brings truth to the evil things. So it makes everything that was a lie, exposes the lies, right? So it's light and truth are hand in hand together. And that's why we're seeing all of these things starting to unfold here. But we're waiting. One thing, this is so critical, which I've discovered over the years, and this is so important for everybody to understand. See, your father prophesied about gold, and he will raise a simple stone. And we'll play the video in just a second, a little bit. But he will raise a simple stone. See, and that simple statement, it sounds as simple as it is. The problem is that simple stone, he will raise us a simple stone. That stone represents anti-financial system. Everything that stone represents is opposite the financial system of this world, because the financial world is not based on a rock, okay? It's based on paper. And so we're about to see. So that's why gold is never, this is the point I want to make. Gold and silver are never, ever, ever going to have any value. Ever. Until God intervenes.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And Dad saw a lot of gold. So
that's why I've basically discovered over all these years, as much as your father's prophetic words are just incredible, the fact that we haven't seen his prophecies come true in reference to wealth transfer, in reference to gold, because we haven't seen the hand of God, meaning the movement of God. And I would describe the hand of God, and let me take your take on it, but the hand of God particularly relates to what was written in Isaiah 61. I believe Isaiah 61 is the essence to everything your father was speaking about. This is what Isaiah 61 states. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring the good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted, and to proclaim that the captives will be released and the prisoners will be freed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. And that's why we're talking today, because I believe what your father was saying, this is a year of Lord's favor. We're going to talk about this. This is the part that Jesus never read in the temple. He closed the book at that point. He closed the scroll. He never read this. And the day of vengeance of our God.
Okay, first of all, the fact that you quoted that particular scripture is very interesting, because of another prophet who prophesied over me after my dad passed away. And he had prophesied over my dad when he was young. Everything he prophesied was extremely accurate. And that exact scripture verse is the verse he referenced when prophesying over me. So it's very strange and quite prophetic of you to read that particular verse to me today.
Of all the verses.
What? Because that's exactly what he was in the middle of prophesying over me, and that verse out of his mouth. And it was incredible. It was an incredible moment then.
Yeah, so, I just think that as much as we all, we're all waiting and hoping for something big to happen, well, maybe this person will do that and what I've come to realize, nothing what any flesh can do will change anything until the glory of God arrives. So right. we need to have the Isaiah 61 moment, the day of vengeance. It'll be probably a 24-hour window. It is gonna be insane what goes off across this world. But that moment in time will change the railroad tracks that world is on. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. I'm disagreeing with you. You're absolutely right. I'm just still blown away that you quoted that particular scripture to me, because that's uncanny. Anyway.
It's God. Well, it's God. He puts it all, puts it all together, right? And then the overlaying scripture for that one is Leviticus 25, verse 10. Okay, and so because these two verses go hand in hand. And you shall consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land and to all of its inhabitants. Okay, and so thou shalt consecrate, the 50th year. So that's the year of Jubilee. That is the year. That's what's described in Isaiah 61, the year of the Lord's favor. So the year of the Lord's favor is the 50-year Jubilee.
Yes.
That's why that's so important.
It is very important. And in our personal family, the Jubilee has been very important because of going all the way back to my grandmother going to Israel and asking the rabbis during the war in 67. She was there for the war. She didn't mean to be. And she was going around asking all the rabbis about the Jubilee year. And then she died on the next Jubilee year.
Wow.
So the Jubilee year also has a lot of personal attachment for our family in regards to my grandmother and our spiritual inheritance that way, but also my dad and all of that surrounding that.
Interesting.
We have all these things that are quite prophetic, Bo. I think you're more prophetic than I realized.
Well, and then the Jubilee that we are discussing, right? You go backwards in time, right? So if you did 8 cycles of 50-year Jubilees, that takes you to 1620.
Yes.
November, yes. Which is when the Mayflower landed. So that's 400 years backwards from the year 2020. So the virus, all these things started in 2020, right? Well, exactly 400 years backwards was the landing of the Mayflower. And then that takes us to Exodus, right? Because Israel was in bondage for 400 years.
I was going to say 400, Israel.
Yeah, right. All of these patterns are playing together. So the Isaiah 61 moment talks about the year of the Lord's favor. And then the Leviticus talks about the year of Jubilee. They're the same thing. And they tie into a 400-year cycle that we're sitting in right now. So it's rather incredible. And then that number 8, I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you take the number 8, that represents Jesus, right? It represents also a new beginning, because it was God creates everything in 6 days. 7th day he rests, and then you step into a new world on the 8th day.
Yes.
There were 8 people on the ark, and on Noah's ark you step off, and then there into a new era. So all of this is tying together, representing that we're stepping into a new world.
Yeah.
And so what your father prophesied was what was going to transpire in this new world. So that's what's so exciting about all of what we're talking about. And so that kind of takes me. So I think those are the kind of main topics I want to talk about. And also the 50-year cycle. I'm sure you are aware, but just in case, the 50 years it started in 71 with Roe v. Wade and December 13th of 1971. And your father was very big on Israel is forever. Israel is forever, right? And why would he say that? Because basically God chose Israel.
Yes. And Dad
Period.
prophesied that.
Yeah.
Prophesied. He didn't
Yeah.
just say it, he prophesied it. He shouted it from the Tower of David.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that story. Can you repeat that story that the one when you were on stage in Myrtle Beach, the tour guide that went on stage with you? Can you give us a quick little rundown on that? Because that was great. There's
Oh,
a
Doobie. Now, let
Jewish
me tell
tour
you,
guide. You got to hear the story. The Jewish tour guide is the
he's
best.
the best tour guide in the world. My dad traveled a lot in his life, and when he started going to Israel, he was going with God TV and with different groups, and he decided to go on his own. So he decided to hire a tour guide, and then he went down in the hotel, and the tour guide he had booked had canceled, and Doobie was standing there, and whoever he was there to give a tour to had canceled, and so God put them
Coincidence?
together.
There are none.
No, there's no. Dad used to say that all the time. No coincidence. And so he met Doobie, and he said, "Well, can you give us the tour?" And Doobie said, "Yes, I'll do it." So he ended up being the most incredible tour guide. The guy is, I mean, Doobie is such a wealth of knowledge. You ask Doobie about anything, he's so well traveled, and he really has been such a blessing. He's still with our ministry. If you go to houseofdestiny.org, look for Israel Update. He's on every Friday with Chrissy Desfontaine. They run our Israel Update channel. So Dad set that up. Dad set up everything so we could have news on the ground from Israel, and then was prophesying. He even prophesied over Nir Barkat, who was the mayor of Jerusalem at the time. And this is going back, I mean, this must be 2011, I think. And he told him, you'll be a prime minister of Israel. And at the time, Nir Barkat was saying, no, he was leaving politics. And so they left it alone. My dad kept saying he's going to be a prime minister. Well, he's running now. He's entering the race so that he can. So Dad was so intricately involved there in Israel, and Doobie was the guy that was taking him all over the place. Doobie's
And backstep that one, and then also remember, and when he found out your father was a prophet and he's Jewish, to go to give that was go. That's funny.
Doobie didn't know what to think of my dad, and then he took him to the spot in Israel at the Jordan River.
Also, just to preface, all Jewish people don't believe in prophets because they think the prophets ended with at the time of Jesus, right? So they don't have prophets right now. So when Doobie found out your father was a prophet, it was twisting his mind because he's like, there are no prophets right now. So he wanted to run away from your dad for what he was saying.
He did because he didn't know what to think. And then he took my dad, and next thing my dad starts prophesying. He says, will you pray with me to Doobie? And they hardly knew each other. Doobie said, okay, I'll pray with you. Next thing, my dad's prophesying, where is the God of Elijah? And he's doing all this stuff. And Doobie said he'd never felt anything like that before. Yeah. And then over the years,
all the bells started ringing for 5 minutes. He said they wouldn't stop. The bells that hadn't rung in hundreds of years.
And as soon as my dad was standing there prophesying with Doobie, so it was a Christian and a Jew standing hand in hand in that spot at the Jordan River, and the bells started going after hundreds of years. He didn't know what to think. It was the most incredible moment for Doobie, but it opened things up so much. They're such dear friends too. It was such a blessing to have them. I had to, because they happened to be in the country, and I was like, I'm going on the Reawaken tour, and you were like with my dad through so much, like, you need to come and talk to the people a little bit. So that's why I let him come up and talk, because I've been doing Reawaken, and I've been going around touring, and I do stuff on our network, but it's good for people to see. There's so many people that Dad worked with, and that are incredible humans who have so many stories about Dad and what God did through Dad. So I like to share that. And
I just love that story, because it was just like, I have friends that are Jewish, and it's so hard for them, especially the older ones, they've grown up forever, like, with the Jewish mentality, and it's so hard for them to, understand the Christ. It's just, but when they're like 70, 80 years old, it's just, it's ingrained in them, and for him to have this happen to him must have been just a mind-boggling.
It was.
Yeah,
it changed his life. He just came on board
in a heartbeat,
and everything, being Jewish and everything. He just said, you know what, this is the real deal. And
he had a road to Damascus moment.
It was, and they're really, really good friends. They were just the best of friends, and we're really close to Doobie and his family.
Yeah,
and anybody going to Israel, you need to look for Doobie Sabo, because he will give you the best better than anyone else. And this is what I keep trying to tell people. Like, I'm not just saying this because he's my friend. You will not find someone who can give you such a wealth of information.
Wow.
You have a standard level of tourism in Israel. Go with Doobie. He's going to take you all kinds of places. It's so much fun going there with him.
Well, that's all. So let's do this. So let's get into the good stuff now. Let's get into your father's prophecies. So let's start off with the video called God's Undercover Seasons.
Okay.
Today I will expose, I will reveal, for you have entered into a time and a season of undercover, where I will bring out from the covers the truth. For there have been too many lies, one lie after the other, covered in high national positions. There are two E's that I see. One E is the word erupt. The other is earthquake, a volcano as a sign. And then there will be another earthquake, says the Lord. Keep your eyes open, for this sign is to cause the earth to yield of its produce. I will release that which has been held back from you and cause triumph to be sounded in your mouths, says the Lord. Summer reaches to spring and to fall. I will be the mediator, says summer. I will uncover. Yet beneath the earth, there is a rage. Eruptions. Summer says, why choose they me? Why do the tornadoes, the hurricanes choose me? I am summer. I bring smiles. I bring sunshine, I bring warmth. Yet there is a tumultuous rendering that is coming. I stand to protect spring, but fall, you are rebelling. Or is it that possibly the Spirit of God will cause many to fall in fall? Then there is the earth that wishes to tremble. Shake! For the nations of the earth stand waiting. However, there is an uncovering of great evil. And I will start from the top. I have shaken the Democrats and will shake the Republicans even more. But remember, when these tremors and when these tumultuous moments happen, Summer says, I will take it so that the fall can do its work in America. Summer, take it. For thus says the Lord, I will prosper my people. And during the fall there shall be many that shall fall, and many that shall rise from the dust. For the summer shall bring forth much in the temperatures. Strange July, hypnotic November, and oh Christmas, where winter shall say, and me, I will make them happy. For God says, I have chosen each season to manifest something, and it shall come to pass that I shall bring sign after sign. And in the fall, that which comes down is that which was able to be shaken. And I will build and release the resources. And in the fall, will show you whom I have chosen to pray for and guide this nation. You shall rejoice, for it is my man. It is my chosen David, says the Lord.
You know, I've been watching this particular prophecy for years now, and every year I kept thinking, is this it? Is this it? And it was never the year. And I actually had not listened to this in a while until you showed it to me again. And I you know, I obviously know the prophecy. I made the video and I put it out years ago, and I've been watching it, and never was it the right time. And, you know, there's something about prophecy that will touch all of the senses. You know what I'm talking about? Like, because this is God, really. You know, God uses us and used my dad, but essentially it's God. And so he was just being obedient, and there were many layers to it. It was quite complicated. And so the significance of this one, and again, listening to it freshly again, after it's been a while, even the other day I listened to it when you sent it to me, and now I'm listening again. It does appear to be this year, as you're saying, especially considering where we're going towards in November. I'm interested in the strange July, because the way he says it, you listen to how he says it, he's almost crying it out. Strange July, very strange. So I'm very interested to see what will happen and what made you pay attention to this one.
So this is what I can add to what you're saying. First off, you know, to me, timing is a big deal. So it was done on June 14th, 2014. So June 14th is Trump's birthday.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he did it on Trump's birthday, which is interesting. And that would correlate to, I will show you who my David is.
Right.
Okay? So he actually prophesied this on 45's Trump's birthday. I guess you didn't know that. So there was prophesied. And then the other mathematical thing that comes up with that is the number 8, because it was 8 years ago to the very day. You know, so we're in June here. This is the 8th. So in a few more to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So in 6 days from now, that prophecy will be exactly 8 years old.
Yes. That's interesting that you're bringing this up now, because that's what we've been doing on Prophetic Rewind every week. So Prophetic Rewind's the show I've been doing since a little bit after Dad passed away. I started doing it, and it's just mainly started I call it Prophetic Rewind, because we go back and look at stuff Dad's prophesied, or stuff teachings he done, or worship, whatever, and we play it every Monday at the House of Destiny. And this past, I would say, month, we've been kind of going back exactly 7 years because of something he prophesied about 7 years of grace. Mm-hmm. And when he prophesied, that was June again of 2015, and he was talking about 7 years. And so we've been playing on Prophetic Rewind, particularly the month of June, which is why I'm bringing this up, in 2015, 7 years ago. And now you've brought up one from June of 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Again, very interesting. See how timing, important timing.
That's what time is, so, because God's got a time and seasons, right? So he does things in precise timing. That's everything he does is precise timing. So there's precision to everything he does. It's like everything in the world is precision. And so I find it interesting, you know, 8 cycles of 50 is 400 years. 8, you know, a new beginning. Right. And now this prophecy is 8 years old in 6 days from now. It's very interesting how this is all playing out. And then what's happening, we talked in this earlier part of the presentation or our chat, was about truth and light. So what's happening every single day since the winter solstice? We're getting more light. Light keeps increasing until June 21. Which means that if God's going to shine a giant spotlight on the deals done in darkness, my take is we're going to see something pop,
Yes.
possibly here into the 21st of June. That's my take on it. I don't know. I do know that the year of Jubilee, the Leviticus year of Jubilee, 50-year Jubilee, ends on the 25th, 26th of September. So anything that's popped to pop here, so I want to kind of run these timelines by you, but it has to happen before the 50-year Jubilee ends.
Yes.
Okay, so
That
the
makes
Jubilee
perfect sense.
started on Rosh Hashanah and it ends on Elul 29. Elul 29 this year, depending on which calendar you look at, one says September 25, another calendar says September 26. But Elul 29 would be the last day of the year, of God's year.
Yes.
Okay, so something huge has to happen to fulfill this prophecy very, very, very soon. Now, I want to show you something here of the screens up on this page 16 here. This is my newest information that I've got, but this is really kind of important. So today being June 8th right here,
Yes.
we've got we got 9th, 10, 11, so 12 based on this calculation. And this was done basically, the creator of this calendar, apparently this is the correct biblical Hebrew calendar. This calendar uses data from NASA and pinpoint accurate biblical history to calculate the time the way Jesus did, according to Jesus's original reckoning of time, not a man-made system of time. What this system is saying, what this calculation, and this was done, who's this guy here? I think his name is Michael Reed. So the calculation basically states that we believe that Pentecost was this past Monday, not on this calculation. Pentecost apparently is this Sunday, the 12th.
Yes, I see.
So so that be the case, God historically has done things on his feasts. Well, we have a huge feast coming up here, if calculation is correct, the 12th, this weekend. And then this is really awesome. You're going to love this. So Jesus walks into the temple and he reads Isaiah 61.
Right.
You know what day that was? If it put into our year?
No.
Next Saturday, June 18th.
The Sabbath.
So, and then 3 days later is the summer solstice.
Yes.
So we're stepping into some, I don't know what's going to happen. Does anything happen on the next week? I'm telling you, if this calculation is correct, we got Pentecost, we got Pentecost, which is a Jewish feast. Then right after that, we've got Isaiah 61 moment, which is the year of the Lord's favor and the day of the Lord's vengeance. And then 3 days later, we've got the summer solstice, the day of maximum light. So interesting how this timeline is playing out. But I can tell you, your father's words were, summer, there's going to be truths revealed, earthquakes, volcanoes, eruptions, wealth transfer. It is also the halfway point of the year, okay? So if you take a coin and you flip it, the other half is exactly opposite, which means that by the end of the year, we're supposed to see the exact opposite. That's why we're going to have I will make you happy in Christmas. Get it? Because it's the exact opposite what it is in June. So June looks horrible. Christmas, your massive celebrations, like your father said, I will make you happy 6 months later. So they're finished. And so that leads us into Strange July. Strange July, we'll see what that means. But I can tell you, from what your father's saying, I guarantee you, from what your father's saying, we're going to have earthquakes and volcanoes popping off around the world, because I'm sure something huge maybe happened here at the end of June.
I agree. And the way you've laid it out here, because again, I've been watching this prophecy for years. And this is where the code breaking side is important, because I'm listening to you and you're an ultimate code breaker here. Between you and Clay Clark,
Well,
guys
and then the cycle prophecy further is, which I can show you here on this page. So this is what God showed me in my sleep one time, and it's the 4-2-1 cycle in the stock market, which means that we're having the stock market, as much as there's falling, there's going to be there's an expected a 1 cycle here in September, which means a massive crash, a market crash in September. No, you're going to like this.
My goodness.
Okay, you're going to like this. And the reason you're going to like this is because your father said, and then the fall, you will know who my David is. Okay, yes. So this is really important. This crash, should it happen based on this 4-2-1 pattern in September, okay, that will never be called a Trump crash. It has to be called a Biden crash, okay? Because Trump comes back to rebuild what God took down. So they take the fall. And so this is really interesting here, because if that be the case, so you've got fall, September 22nd is when the fall starts.
Yes.
So Trump cannot be in until minimum the September 22nd time point, which means that he's not coming back until then, because that correlates directly with the crash cycle.
Exactly right.
So
and again, like you said, it has to be Biden's crash.
Yes.
God is making sure, and this is why I now understand about the 2020 election, because at the time I thought I had it all figured out. I knew what my dad had prophesied. I knew what I was seeing. You know, it was like, oh, well, sure, Trump's definitely winning. We don't really have to worry. And then, of course, all that was exposed. But the thing is, we wouldn't have known that any of that was going on with the voting, with the elections. That's part of the exposure, the necessary exposure. And the shaking, Dad prophesied a lot about the shaking of nations, God's resting his feet upon nations. Because this isn't just happening in America, it's happening all over the world. All over the world, it's worse. America is the last hope for the rest of the world. I'm speaking as an immigrant. I come from a different country.
America is the hope for the world, because when all tables turn, then everything that they've done is going to translate into what's going on in Israel too, and Israel's going to flip in a second as well too, in a heartbeat, very, very quickly. So and so what you were saying earlier is exactly right, because the reason for what we've had to go through, your father spoke of this. He says, "In darkness, faith grows." Love it.
Exactly right. So it's a necessary thing that has to happen. And if you look at what's going on, you look anywhere, things have gotten so out of control and are so extreme that, you know, more and more people, you hear about being red pilled and waking up. And then the enemy's counter was woke, which is a disaster. And so if you look at it, sometimes it can be sort of painfully obvious if you just know how to see it. And, you know, that's another thing about prophecy and prophetic people is perspective. You know, and when you have that perspective and you're looking down a timeline like you're doing right now, this is where you would find the need for prophecy, which is a signpost, I think would be a better analogy maybe.
Well, that's what I love about, you know, prophecy and your father's work and other prophets, is that you can, in my presentation, like I take pieces of everybody, I put it together and I line it up with timelines that I've got, and then it starts to make sense. And then this portrait starts to form. You start to see a much clearer picture. Exactly. And so let's go to the next one, because this is actually what we're, you know, in darkness, faith grows. So this is your father's prophecy. And this will tie in directly to what we're talking about Trump in 45. So have a listen to this. I think you'll like this. This is your prophecy that you gave me. I narrowed like a 17, 18 minute video down to like 3 minutes.
Spirit of God says, my people have cried out for an answer. And this is what I have to say. A veil has been placed upon this nation, and I did it. So that for a season my people would wonder and faith would increase. For in darkness faith grows. But now my fury has ended. Hear me. I am restoring the fortunes of Zion. I am restoring the fortunes that were the inheritance of my people. I am restoring the fortunes of those that are elect of God and had been stolen from. You shall eat your delicacies again, and your children will no longer be your food. You shall not use them and take them out of the womb anymore, says the Lord. Watch how I change everything. The Supreme Court, too, shall step down for the embarrassment of what shall take place. For it is now time for me to restore the fortunes of Zion. I shouted, and they all shouted. They were one. They were one. One party. One party of people. Amongst them stood one that God had set aside to be the leader of this nation. And then I heard gold. He said to me, he will restore the fortunes in this nation. This man will throttle the enemies of Israel. This man will throttle the enemies of the West. And there are highly embarrassing moments that are about to occur. And people will become very afraid. I have said I will bring this nation to its knees. And God said, you have been humbled. And then you shall hear the sounds of great victory. For they are saying, how do we kill the giant? How do we kill the giant of death? How do we kill the giant of socialism? How do we kill the giant of human secularism? I have placed that man amongst you. These that shall reject him shall be shocked at how he takes the giant down. The giant of death, the giants that have come, the brothers of Goliath, stand in glee watching America. We will cripple you. You will lose your credit. But God said, watch. I said 20,000. And he will take a simple stone and he will hold it up and they will laugh at him. But the plan is so brilliant, says the Lord. It could only have been given by me.
That particular day that you've taken the snippets out of has got the most views of anything, because when you talk about a timeline, on that particular day was actually prophesying a particular timeline, and it's just incredible. That day was incredible. I've even joked that was the day Dad saw everything because it's just incredible. And again, that date's February 22nd, 2014. I know it well. I'm very glad you pulled out Restoring the Fortunes of Zion. That's a key. And the gold, the stone. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about the stone and the gold.
The point being is that gold and silver are never going to be worth anything unless Isaiah 61 occurs, the day of the Lord's vengeance. Okay, so we're in the year right now, and all we're waiting for is the day. So there's a day coming where everything is going to happen, trigger. Other prophets have spoken, it'll happen in a 24-hour window. So that moment in time, your father said a couple of things in this prophecy. He said 20,000. I believe we could see the Dow plunge in a single day, maybe 10,000 points, go straight in a single day, drop down to 20,000. That'll mark the moment in time we will see liftoff in precious metals. So God's going to use what they're going to use. So they're going to try to scare the markets or crash the markets. God's going to turn the tables on them and explode gold and silver. So everything's about to change. And then it states, and the brothers of Goliath stand in glee, right? So who are the brothers of Goliath? Let's define that first, okay? It's Big Brother, the Deep State, the Swamp, the World Health Organization, the IMF, the World Economic Forum, okay? It's all, and others, but that's who they are. So what they're trying to do is, Big Brother trying to cripple the United States. Why? Because if you can cripple the United States, you can control the world.
Yes.
So that is the essence of, and so these brothers of Goliath, so they're no different than, time of Goliath and David, right? The brothers of Goliath stand in glee. We will cripple you, okay? Until God flips the tables on them. How many stones did David need to take down Goliath? One. But this is the best part, right? David was so confident in what he was about to do to Goliath. I think he took 4 stones because he had 3 other brothers. He was going to take them all out. And so the point being is that, God, the stone, the prophecy of the stone is very prophetic because, it's a stone and that's what gold is, right? And so what they've done with this is help you understand about, why gold and can destroy the system, because the banks have been selling contracts back and forth to one another for generations now. Okay. So 1 month, one bank's buying all the shorts, next bank that they switch. So they sell these contracts back and forth. So right now, gold or silver, gold right now, I believe is leveraged maybe more, but at last I heard it's about 500 to 1. So with every ounce of gold that's sold, they've sold that ounce to 500 people. So it's called paper contracts. So it's just, they're leveraging everything. Silver could be 8 times worse than that. So the point being is that when gold goes vertical, it's a bank killer. Never mind gold, silver is going to destroy. So what happens is silver and gold, particularly silver, is going to take down the banking system, and that's going to be the 50-year jubilee. But the brothers of Goliath, they stand in glee because they think that they're winning right now.
They do.
So that's the point of the brothers of Goliath stand in glee. We will take, we're going to do this, we're going to do that to you. It's like Satan, I will, the arrogance, right? Pride cometh before the fall.
It does.
Talk about, want to see prideful? Go turn the TV on right now.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And again, is the recurring theme you have with David and Goliath, and then Dad calls him, Trump, my David.
Yeah.
Now there's more to, like I said before, there's layers of that. He also was seeing the spirit of King David upon the people, which is a warrior spirit, and we are in a battle. So there's spiritual warfare, which is something my dad was very familiar with. Something that any prophet, if you speak to any prophet, they'll tell you the same, is the spiritual warfare is intense and you have to be ready for that. And so we have what is manifesting in the flesh, and then the spiritual battle, which is raging. And, that's key. So then you look at a prophecy like that, the brothers of Goliath stand in glee to cripple you.
Yeah.
And, Dad saw that coming, and now, back then maybe we would have had a more vague understanding. Whereas now, where we are, we can look at that prophecy and we know exactly what it means. We know who those giants are.
Yeah.
And it never comes the way you expect it. God likes doing things that way.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, you listen to this prophecy, right? It makes complete sense now, but 7-8 years ago, it didn't make so much sense, right? Or even 5 years ago. So it's really amazing how, time progresses and the prophecy becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. The prophecy specifically is describing what is in Proverbs 13:22. The wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. It is the wealth transfer. It directly relates to what's written in the 3rd seal of Revelation. Okay. It's the black horse, and the rider has scales in his hand. Where was another beautiful example in the Bible that we saw scales?
Scales removed from eyes.
Well, but also the better example would be what was the writing on the wall.
Oh,
many offshore seam, right? It wasn't the scales, but it was the interpretation. Yes. When Daniel came and interpreted for Belshazzar, he says, you've been weighed in the balances, bound wanting. Your kingdom has come to an end, will be given to the Medes and the Persians. And that night, Belshazzar died. It took only 24 hours and it was over. So that's a perfect example of scales of justice, of that, that your father spoke of, that's exactly how gold and silver is going to play into the wealth transfer. It's going to be a 24-hour window where everything flips.
Yes. And I see that. I definitely see that, Bo. And the thing is, my dad actually prophesied that very phrase, The mene. He prophesied that very phrase on the last time he ever prophesied.
Really? Wow.
He said it, and then he said, your days are numbered. They're over.
Yeah.
So that exact, again, Bo, look what you've picked up on. You didn't know about that one. I'll send you that prophecy next.
Wow.
Yeah. He also says the church is being crucified between two thieves, human secularism and a false, erroneous religious system.
Yeah.
And he saw the church being crucified between those two thieves. And I mean, we definitely see the human secularism and the religious spirit for sure right now. I've never seen it like this.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And then going back to Daniel, right? The Daniel 2:34 prophecy, and a stone carved out by no human hand.
Exactly right.
And
Dad was the same event. And there you saw it without knowing that. You see, that's how you know it's directed by God. There's a prophet named Mark Sharona who would say it's called synchronicity.
Okay. Yeah.
Being and Dad used to describe it as, especially with timing, being in rhythm with the dance of God. That's how my dad used to explain it.
Interesting.
How important the timing is. There's a rhythm to it, and you have to be in rhythm with that dance of God. And when you are, it's quite amazing and incredible what can happen.
Yeah. No, it's a blessing, to be able to go through all of these prophecies, and I really enjoyed making that video, editing it down, because it's like you really see the power of it when you edit it down. You put the words to it and you listen to a few times. It's like, wow, that's truly amazing.
Such a blessing doing. I love doing it.
Yeah. But he definitely that last video was nothing but I will restore the fortunes of Zion. Okay, that's Proverbs 13:22. Wealth of the wicked stored up for the righteous, and that ties in. I think if your husband wants to pop in, but we talked about maybe talked a little say about cryptocurrencies, but the cryptocurrencies are directly related to a wealth transfer because it's a different money system that we currently use. Oh,
how's it going, Bo?
You're just sitting in the back.
I've been listening over in the corner.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, man.
Everybody, this is John.
My husband, John. He doesn't often get on camera and speak, but him and Bo are good friends. So we got together and we have just made a nice acquaintance, and we've talked.
I've actually never done an interview before.
Yeah, he's never done it like this before. What's easy?
Well, there you go. Thank you for being here. Last we spoke, it was in Myrtle Beach. You were telling me that well, first off, you're very knowledgeable about cryptocurrencies. You're really knowledgeable about them to a very big degree. And what were you doing with some of I think you were kind of helping some of the police departments and kind of having them understand how cryptos work. You want to give us 2 minutes or a few minutes on that?
Well, this all started with Kim getting sick, my journey into cryptocurrencies. And, when that happened, I've always been in the background for 20 some years as Danae's boyfriend and then husband. And, I'd always listen to Kim and what he had to say. And then when he got sick, I started thinking about the future.
Yeah.
Of what Danae was going to be doing, her mother, the whole ministry. And I really got heavy into investing. Doing my due diligence as much as I could on everything. And that's when I came across John McAfee and what he was doing with Bitcoin and blockchain. So at the same time, I'm listening to Kim Clement and his prophecies, because Danae was sitting there in the garage. We'd sit together and she would just have the prophecies playing as she's editing and all that. And I'm hearing it in my head, sitting over there in my little workstation doing my thing.
We don't listen, but we listen.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there hearing these prophecies, and some of the major ones that Kim had said were about the big E, about energy and about fire point, and these different prophecies that everybody, where Kim said this was going to be this transfer of wealth for God's people. And so I'm studying and looking into finances, and especially for our future of our family. And I start really following this stuff. And McAfee brought me into blockchain and all that. And Kim had prophesied these things about Firepoint and the Big E, and everybody had been trying to figure these out, what these prophecies were for years. Yeah. Even when Kim was alive, and I'd asked him many times, and he didn't know himself. where it was going and all that. And then Kim, passed away, and I was still on this journey. And I ended up teaching a class in my tattoo shop. I owned a tattoo shop in Southern California in Simi Valley. And I ended up teaching every Sunday classes on cryptocurrency, just what I knew. Now, this is back in 2016.
Yeah.
So, Bitcoin, I was the first tattoo shop in the world to have a Bitcoin ATM in my tattoo shop. And that's when Bitcoin was around $2,000. And these classes I was doing, ended up, I had these retired police officers from Santa Monica attending my meetings, and they approached me afterwards and said, we've ran your background or whatever, and we want to know if you're interested in teaching some of our, interested in teaching some of these police officers, the beginnings of Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, where these are going, how police can use this to get the bad guys. And I worked with them for a while, and they were really interesting. But back to the Kim Clement prophecies on FirePoint and the Big E, actually started a company called Prophetic. And I was just trying to figure some of these things out. I was trying to create a blockchain for churches, because as soon as I saw all these like coins coming out, they were going, and their ICOs are getting, millions of dollars.
Those are the crazy days. They pop up.
Those are the crazy
skyrocket. That was
it was insane. Like it was like the stock market on steroids. It was a crazy time. So I was trying to jump into that and creating a blockchain for churches. I created Godcoin. But through that, I was working with only Jewish guys in LA.
Yeah.
My whole company and team were all Jewish developers. My CEO is created one of the largest social media sites in South America called KPasa, and ended up selling that. But nobody knew what these prophecies of Kim Clement were saying about FirePoint and the Big E until I showed these programmers.
Wow.
And when I showed the programmers how Kim was talking about, something invisible in your hand, and it was like a tree with leaves, and it was all coming down, going at the speed of light. Like when I showed that to the programmers, they're like, oh, he's talking about a Merkle tree. This is like a lightweight blockchain, like running at the speed of light. And when they were like understanding what Kim was saying in his own way, it was blowing their minds. And like, you got to understand, that still doesn't exist. Yeah. Like lightweight blockchains, personalized, that are running almost at the speed of light. So I've been trying to develop all this stuff, behind the scenes, and COVID really wrecked a lot of what I was doing, personally. And I kind of just waited. I've kind of just been waiting on it, and still playing the market, although it's been hard to play the market since Trump's been gone, unless you're buying puts. So it's been an interesting ride, and I'm still riding it. And, this is like a path that, myself personally got put on, by God to figure this out.
Right. Yeah.
And as I'm doing it, I think there's a Kim code. And that's why I've been calling it the Kim code. Like if you go to these prophecies, and that's what you're really good at, putting that timeline together and making a map of it. Because I actually think that if you were to put all of Kim's prophecies over the past 30 years on a timeline with maps where he was saying it, what was happening at those times, what happened in the future in those times, and using those numbers like how you do to make it all mathematically come together. And there's a programmer out there that can put together the Kim code. I just wish I would have went to school for programming instead of art. That's my 2 cents.
Isn't it truly amazing that that he was actually talking about cryptocurrencies and all these different? It's really amazing how we haven't even seen these things happen yet, right? So and the reason the big reason why cryptocurrencies why Bitcoin keeps dying every year, is because, see, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are anti-system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it's anti-paper. And so we're waiting for this moment in time where the brothers of Goliath, who have this massive amount of arrogance, fall with a biblical, godly intervention. And then very soon, we're going to see this liftoff of cryptos with precious metals. And it's just going to rip vertical. And it's going to be one heck of a ride. And so what we're seeing right now is just, this massive battle going on right now where the evil ones cannot let it go up, but there's a massive floor of people constantly buying it. So it's stuck going sideways.
Yeah, it's going sideways.
It's just, but the pattern that I described to you when we were in May, it played out perfect. And it's, the set of, remember that when it dropped into May.
The way you explained it when we were in Myrtle Beach, when you started talking about, the 6 day, 7 day cycle, and on the seventh day at rest, and we're sitting there, we're watching that, and I never heard anybody quite tie it together like biblically with cryptos and chart reading. How you were doing it, and I find that so interesting because if you actually talk to crypto guys, like they don't want nothing to do with God or don't talk about the Bible. That's why it's been so hard for me to try to start God coin, where I'm trying to merge church and this this blockchain technology. Right. And I'm sure a lot of people are trying to do that too. It's been very hard.
Well, because you have to educate.
No, a lot of people don't even understand. I fly right over their heads.
See, the thing I like about the blockchain technology, particularly, is that technology more the Ethereum block, the functional blockchain, but also the decentralization is key. It's kind of a theme. Like if you look at banks or you look at government, it's the centralization of it. It's like, we moved away from monarchical systems years ago. That's what America's about, not having that.
Well, a better way to describe it, another way to say that would be Donne, it would be open ledger, right? So it's like the reason they hate cryptocurrencies, precious metals, gold and silver, right? It's very simple. They don't know who's got. Once you buy gold and silver, you basically take the money, you take it out of the system. You're in control of it, so they can't control you. So that's why that's the ultimate money, because they can't control you. They don't know who's got it, what are you doing with it. There's just zero transparency for them. They don't know what you're doing with it, so they hate it. Okay.
And why Biden did that $600 thing with the IRS, wanting to know every $600 you spend. The Biden administration.
Oh, you're talking about
They just
blowing it from $10,000 what you have to declare to the IRS.
Like that's micro controlling human beings,
right? Because the system is gearing up to, like, as your father, we're heading into a world of more and more control. These people are going to fall. So everything your father prophesies about to happen, these people are going to fall. This can be the fall of Daniel's statue. They lose control. It's going to be horrible. Okay, for them, amazing for us, but we only get a window of about 3.5 years. Okay. From what I'm gathering, and then the beast starts to rise. So it's so then it's going to start to get ugly again, in the future. But that you can't stop prophecy, right? You can't stop revelation.
Revelation, you can't stop it if it's happening.
Can't stop, because remember, this is third seal, what we talked about, right? Many thirds, the scales, third seal is what's going to happen. Then you get a window of grace, and then we're going to then fourth seal. And then the fifth, so we got, there's 7 seals, okay? So but we're going to get a massive window of opportunity here. So blockchain, the reason it's good is this moment in time is open ledger, which means that it's like, if you send me a coin or I send you a coin or a fraction of whatever, it's across all the computer of the world, right? Because it's open ledger. Everybody sees a transaction. And so that's why you can't make more of it out of thin air. So that's what gives blockchain or cryptos value, particularly, some of the good coins. And whereas the centralized system you discussed, it's centralized because their doors are closed. It's all done behind their closed doors. You don't know how much money they're creating, and you don't know. And so you don't know what the value of it is. And what I've heard, I think it's like 15 or plus trillion dollars they've created in the past 18 months. Understand that it took 100 years to make the first trillion.
I know it's obscene. It's
So-
obscene amount of money.
So
I
that
don't
leads,
know how these people think they're getting away with this.
well, because they can. How do they get away with it? Because they can.
That's exactly right.
They
They're
can.
getting away with, and this is the frustrating thing is in the season right now, you see a lot of people getting away with a lot. And you're thinking, why is nothing happening? These people, there's so much, like Hunter Biden and his laptop, there is so much evidence. That's just, it's literally how much more evidence would you need? You know, think about watching the court cases on TV growing up and stuff and people presenting evidence. Like we're not getting that moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big frustration for a lot of people.
Well, and that's because we honestly, they're at peak arrogance right now.
Yes.
Okay. They're at peak arrogance, maximum point of arrogance right now. Okay. Which means that they think they're so high and so big and so almighty. Right. And that's why all we can at this point do is pray. And lastly, wait for Isaiah 61 to fulfill.
Yes.
Because without God's intervention, nothing man can do will stop what they've achieved so far to this point, because we've let them. They've actually, they've tricked us through this monetary system to control us.
Yes.
So that's where it's all coming.
That's why we needed a Trump.
Yeah.
God needed somebody who would be able to get attention,
Understands the financial system.
understand money, and not be in that club, in our Illuminati, Ivy League, whatever those people, Luciferians, are doing.
Yep.
And for how many decades it was conspiracy theory, and slowly it started to come out. No, this stuff is true. But then when you look at Trump, he's not part of that. And you remember my dad prophesied he's amongst them. He is amongst you. It was on that February 22nd, 2014. He saw the scales being removed from eyes. He saw the MAGA movement, which is one party of people that, and they were one. You look at all of those things, which is so interesting, because if you think about my dad, and you look at that particular day as a timeline, you'll see the impeachment. He says impeach, and then later on he says impeach again. And so when you do that, you can sort of see the timeline just in that particular day. And this is from the one you played,
Yep.
the last one you played.
Yeah.
So,
I want to show you this here that you might find this interesting. Okay. But this is, so all US presidents but two have a descendant bloodline to King John of England.
oh,
Every single president of the United States has a bloodline to King John of England, except Martin Van Buren
no,
and Trump. You there? Hello?
Even with the Queen of England.
I'm
royal
sorry.
family, for
Royal
sure.
Cut out. Can you repeat what you said? You cut out.
I just said I've known before. I've heard before of most presidents' bloodline is traced back to the royal family in England, and they're all kind of
King
related.
John, yeah, it's England, King John, exactly it. So that's just the research I've done, but I thought it kind of ties in with what you're talking about. Trump. That's back to our initial point of the conversation, right? Trump got in, and he wasn't supposed to. He wasn't supposed to be there, but by God's perfect design and God's will, it happened. And back to the original conversation, it freaked them out because it derailed their plans.
It did. And so you see them, even Eric Trump said to me when I met him, he said, oh, we're just letting them overplay their hand.
Yeah.
And they will.
And that's exactly what God's doing.
Yeah. And
They think they've gotten away with this, and they've gotten so bold that they just do whatever they want. There's no repercussion or consequence at all. Nobody has to answer for anything.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the result of that in this time is that the American people, and I'm speaking about America now because we're here in America, the American people are being misrepresented. And this is what they're realizing, I think.
well, I think even
people
those
like
that don't,
Fauci, who voted for Fauci. So we are starting to look around and say, we better pay attention to who we're voting for. We better go out there and vote. And then you have the problem of the fraud. And then when people try to speak up and say something about it, they're called insurrectionists.
Well, and exactly, and at this point in time, with everything going on, everything is so controlled, with all these different machines. Matter what you stick in the box, it doesn't really matter because they can modify, manipulate everything at this point. So it's a joke how where we're at. This is just like peak crazy right now.
Well, that's why
that's all I can say.
Yes,
it's crazy. But it had to happen because again, your father, there's beautiful words. In darkness, faith grows.
Faith grows, and we needed to grow some faith, people. We need to be real Christians, and we need to understand the prophetic too. I think that's been a thing that's woken up a lot of people through the process of this. Is we don't really understand it as much. We've really understand the evangelist. We understand, the pastor. We understand the teacher. What about the prophet? And that time is now. And I think that's the way why Paul saw it the way he saw it. Yeah. That there would come a point in time where all may prophesy, where the old men will dream dreams and the young men have visions. Or did I do it backwards?
Yeah.
But you know what? Know the verse. You know what God showed Paul, and so I think, all of these things that happen, we think, oh, this is a mistake, or did God make it? No, he doesn't make any mistakes. He knows exactly what he's doing. And
everything's perfection. It's perfection.
Yeah. You won't be able to see it until afterwards. In hindsight's 2020. But at least we have the gift of the prophetic to guide us along the way. So in a time like this, when we feel so hopeless, like these people are getting away with whatever they want, we're being misrepresented, we're being silenced, we know it's not going to last.
Right, but so did Pharaoh, right? Did Pharaoh. So that's why it's so nice to when you understand the Bible, you can go back and look at the stories, right? And start to understand, look at the arrogance Pharaoh had. He actually, after all the plagues, he finally released Israel, but then he changed his mind again, and he's going to go kill them all. You see what I'm saying? And because of the arrogance.
Yes.
Because of the arrogance, right? So I can tell you this, and I'm sure, you might be feeling your heart as well too, but it's crazy. We're going to see crazier very soon here yet. We're literally at Clash of the Titans here. This is going to be just one heck of a show that we're about to witness here.
It really is. It really is. And God did a lot to prepare us for it.
Yeah.
Not just my dad, many prophetic voices and leaders that are rising up and right in the right time. And, doing the Reawaken tour has been such a blessing too, because it's connected a lot of us.
Right.
Together.
That's the thing is, it's like we got to meet, we've met a lot of people, and that's why the tours are fun, right? Because you actually get to go there and think, and realize you're not crazy because
you're not alone.
Of people in the room that are on the same page as you, but you couldn't take this conversation and take it outside and have this conversation with most people outside because they don't get it, right? But this is the thing. But faith is starting to grow for these people. Even them out there are starting to realize something's wrong, something's broken, something's waking up. They're waking up, and they're going to have a mass awakening here very, very soon. Many will, and they're going to have mass freakout sessions. So expect that. So I believe your father's words about the 2 E's, okay, earthquakes and eruptions. I believe that's going to start here in July because of Roe v. Wade gets overturned here very soon. And then there's going to be massive riots. Right. So we're going to have massive riots going on. And then the prophecy is that the riots will be short-lived because of the volcanoes and the eruptions and the earthquakes that go off that God triggers. And that's going to cause people to take their focus off of Roe v. Wade and focus on coming together because of what just happened with the earthquakes and everything that got disrupted all across the United States and the world. So that's why we're going to have a strange July. At least that's a part of the puzzle that I think is how it's going to play out because of Roe v. Wade. They're going to have the earthquakes, and that's going to keep going off through the summertime, crazy summer, and then that's going to lead into fall and the return of David.
Exactly right. So
and then your father said, and they come together as one. They come together as one. Okay, so the two-party system comes to because of what happened. The two-party system comes together as one. Under Trump.
Yes.
Under God.
Under God. Exactly. Most important part.
Absolutely.
I like that a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
So then all glory goes to God.
Yes, because that's the key. Dad always used to say that the glory goes to God, number one.
Yeah. So I
God's going to make sure that it happens that way.
yep. So
Well,
so
let you
Don,
finish your conversation.
so tell us.
Thanks a lot, Bo.
Thank you. We're finished here, Donnie. Where can everybody find you? John, thank you for showing
Okay.
up. Where can people find you if they have other questions? If they want to watch some of your videos, please pass it all on, and I'll actually put all the information you give in the bottom information section of the video too.
Great. Okay, perfect. So basically you can go to houseofdestiny.org or kimclement.com works as well. So either of those websites will take you to the same website. And you need to click on the watch page if you want to see the shows on our network. So we do a weekly Saturday, we do a Wednesday, Mondays I do Prophetic Rewind, Fridays we have Israel Update. We also have Destiny Worship, Destiny Kids, and all of this is on YouTube and Rumble and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all of them. Like I said before, we're going into the darkness and we're going to be a light as long as they'll let us stay, because we do get censored. But you can find us there. If you're looking on YouTube, look for Kim Clement on YouTube. And we do have the official Kim Clement YouTube channel. And that's where a lot of people have found stuff. And I actually had started posting on there years ago. When Dad got sick already, I was posting prophecies up there. And that's mainly how a lot of people started hearing about it, was through YouTube. And so I'm really glad I did that, because it helped people to just be able to see it for themselves. And so we have an abundance of stuff for you to watch there. Just go to the House of Destiny. We also have an app in the App Store on Google Play and iTunes. Just go to search House of Destiny, and you'll see a little white with a red house and a flame. And that's our app. And on the app is the prophecy database, as well as on the website. So you can go search the prophecies yourself. You can put, it's keyword searches. You want to search prophecies on gold. There's a database of transcribed prophecies. And every time my dad said gold, or every time my dad said Trump, or whatever you're interested to see, did Kim prophesy something about this, or what did he see? You can go and have a look for yourself. And so we have all of those. And then if anyone wants to call or email, we do offer prayer and counseling, and we have a prayer wall. My mom and dad built with the House of Destiny, just a beautiful thing. So I really encourage everybody to go and check it out and have a look. And you're just, there's a wealth of stuff for you to see, and to learn about the prophetic as well. And I think that's just the best way for everybody. So that's it. I think I remembered it. Well, code breakers at houseofdestiny.org. If you want to email me about prophecies, it comes right to my phone. Code breakers at houseofdestiny.org. Email address if you want to email me.
Awesome. Danae, what a pleasure. I can't believe that I get to meet with you. I got to interview with you after listening to your father's prophecies. God is amazing putting us all together. All glory to God. He's got a massive plan, and it's coming to be. So people, fear not. God's got this. Oh, he's got this. The last 6 months of this year are going to be nothing like the first 6, and we're going to see God at work. So, Danae, thank you for being here. Say hi to your mom.
I will.
Thank you for John, for showing up as well too. God bless everybody. God bless you, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Okay.